Hey everybody, this is Strategywizard again, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Titan Race, published by FunForge and designed by Julian Allain and illustrated by Djib. I'm not D-J-I-B. I'm not sure about that, but the illustrations are nice, so I figured I'd mention that. But this is a racing game of big titans who are trying to just pummel each other, beat each other up, and just get after it, trying to get to the end and hopefully knock each other out a good bit along the way. Now, this is a game it's actually very kid-friendly. I mean, what was the age range for this? 8+, and I would say you could even go younger than that because it's pretty straightforward how to play. I mean, as far as some of the strategies and stuff, yeah, maybe you would want to be a little older to totally understand how to play, but the mechanics are pretty simple, and if you can do some basic reading, no problem. So I think you might be able to go below 8+. 2 to 6 players, 30 minutes, yeah, all that sounds right. So let's go ahead and go to the table. I'll show you how to play, and then I'll let you know what I think. So here's the setup for a 6-player game of Titan Race. The goal of the game here is to race through 3 laps on the board so that you're the first to get to basically make 3 laps. So once you've made 3 laps, you win. So whoever gets there first, that's it, end of the game. Now, what everyone gets for their personal stash is they have their character tile for which Titan they're using. They have a card that will show them what their special ability is. They'll get dealt a special action card that they can use on their turn, and you'll keep track of health with these little heart tokens. You'll keep track of your laps with this little checkered circle here. So as you complete a lap, you'll move it up all the way to victory, and that's it. That's what everyone gets. So each character has different starting health or special ability and all that good stuff, and as you go through the game and you're moving along trying to beat everyone else to the end, you'll be getting more cards for yours to have special actions, and you'll be rolling dice for your main actions. So let's go ahead and explain. Here's how you actually move. Whenever you start, you're going to roll the dice. So let's just say that this nice fellow here, Cthulhu, who is like a Cthulhu, I guess, imitation, he'll roll the dice. He rolls, and however many players are playing, that's how many dice you roll. So if you had 3 players, you'd only roll 3 dice. But we have 6 players, so we're rolling all 6. Now, you'll choose an action from these dice, and you'll have a little slot over here where you'll put the die to show that you've taken your turn. And each die means something usually pretty intuitive. Like in this case, you'd move forward twice. So let's say he wants to move forward twice. He will choose A, C, or E to start on for now. Let's say he wants to start at C. He would then move 1, 2 spaces forward because of the yellow. Now I'm going to bring another one of the boards closer to you so you can kind of see the way the movement works. So let's say, so he started on C, and if you move forward, you'll notice there's a little bit of a line there, a little bit of a line there. You can see the connection. Boom, 1, boom, 2, forward. If you want to move diagonally, like this would have you do, whenever there's arrows with a curve, that means that you will move that many times, however many symbols, that's how many times you move in an angular direction, and it has to be the same direction. So you'd have to move 2 to the right, which would mean 1, 2, or 2 to the left, 1, 2. Always moving forward and diagonal, of course. You can never move backwards unless there's something that makes it happen, like a card or something, or a special ability. So the movement is, honestly, with the board, you really have to pay attention because it's kind of easy to get lost because you can wrap around on the board. Let's say you move, I'll just turn this one to a particular side. If you move 3, this means you have to move 3 diagonally left or 3 diagonally right. Now, that's pretty straightforward for the most part, but if you wrap around, if you start here and you go 1, 2, you wrap around, you'll have to notice that your row is 3, and you'll wrap around to 4 and go there, and continuing your diagonal movement. So let's say you started at 3 and you wanted to go this way, diagonally you go 3 to 4, and then continue like that. You really have to focus and pay attention to the little dots because the board, it's not so easy to see at a glance with all the stuff that's going on, but once you've played it a little bit, you get used to it and it's not so bad. So that's how that works. Each person will take their turn. So let's say the Kraken is next. He will take his little, let's say he wants to do this. He'll say, well, I want to start on A. Now this means he has to move forward 1 space, but that little trap symbol means that he can place a trap either before or after his movement. In this case, you have to place the trap behind yourself, and he can't do that yet because he's at the very back. So he'll move forward, and then he can say, oop, I'll place this trap. You have trap tokens, and if anyone lands in it, or if you just drop it right on somebody, they take 1 damage. But he'll just toss his either right here, probably here, so no one comes behind him. Because if someone comes behind you and pushes you, for example, let's see if I can, I'll just do an example real quick. Like, let's say, see, he did this. Let's say this guy decided to do, let's see, we'll make this guy Slaug, the kind of wyvernish dragon lancer guy. We'll make him go up twice. Let's say he starts here, he goes 1, 2, and he pushes into this guy. Doing that hurts him, so he will lose 1 health. Not only does that happen, but since I pushed him into this lightning bolt symbol, which, just to make sure you can see well, the lightning bolt symbol looks like this, Cthulhu gets another card. You can only have a maximum of 2 cards, so you want to use them quickly. So he's pushed him forward. He hurt him, but he gave him a card because he pushed him into a card spot. So pushing people is very important for causing damage. But this die lets you move diagonally twice. So let's say this guy wants to start here, and oh man, that's a bummer. He'll go over here. He'll start out here, and he'll move diagonally left twice. Then, before or after movement, this means he can attack someone who is in the 3 spots in front of him. He can attack here, here, or here because they're in a forward somewhat direction, or this one's totally forward. So he can attack. Boom! Hurt him for 1 damage. So he'd get hurt. Then this one would mean that you would move forward and then move diagonally 1 direction of your choice. So you could move. He could start here and go up 1 and then move over here. Then we have, let's see, is that all? Oh yeah. And then the last, I already showed the 3 diagonal. This would mean that you would get hurt 1, but you would get to change this to any die result of your choice. So that's very powerful. Now, after everybody, let's say each person's taken a die, and now it's his turn. Oh man, he only has 1 choice and he has to get hurt. Oh man, no, that's not the case. The last person takes all the dice and has the luxury of rolling them all so that no one is ever stuck with only 1 option. Unless, of course, you roll a bunch of the same dice, in which case that could still happen. But the point is that you're never left with just 1 die. The last person will always restart by rolling everything, and then it will continue around the table. So you're moving around, you're dropping traps, you are attacking people, pushing people, doing additional damage, and as you get, all the way through, you'll cross over, and then, you'll do a lap. So you'll mark yourself that you're on lap 2. And if you get all the way through to the 3rd lap, you win. But it's not as easy as it might seem, because a lot of these special abilities can really put a thorn in your side. The grinder over here, the green guy, he's able to drop traps in any space around himself. And you can use a trap at the beginning of your turn or after you've moved. So being able to drop traps means you can either just hurt someone automatically if you just put it on them, or you can use it to block paths so people have to hurt themselves to go through it. Now, if you end up losing all your life, it doesn't mean you're out of the game. So let's say Cthulhu, oh no, I'm dead. Well, what he does, he's going to knock himself down like this to show that he's been knocked out. Well then, whenever it comes back around to his turn, he'll just flip this over, put it back up to his starting health, and then he'll stand himself back up. He'll still take a die, but he doesn't use it. That way, it still doesn't mess up with the flow of who gets to roll first, but he basically loses a turn. That's essentially what happens. Whenever you die, you lose a turn. So you could be boogieing along and having a great time, and someone comes and attacks you, and I think you can do up to 4 damage at least. You can do 4 damage, I think, to 1 person on a turn. So if you're lucky, if you have all the right stuff. So people can die pretty quickly, and which is why you want to try to stay away from other people. Now, the special abilities, I'll go ahead and tell you what all those are for each character. Cthulhu can actually do 1 damage to an adjacent Titan, and then he gains a life point. So these Titans, if someone's next to him at the very start of his turn, he can attack this guy with this special ability, flip it over to show he used it. He would heal himself, and that's why he has these 2 extra hearts here, because he's the only one that has these non-numbered hearts. He starts with 4, but he can heal himself with this special ability. So he goes, oh, I'm going to hurt you. So he gets hurt 1, and then I get to bump up. Aha! and build himself back up before he moves. So I can hurt him, heal myself, and then move along with whatever dice I choose. The Ragnarok has 6 health, which he's the only one who starts off with that much, which makes him great for surviving. And then he can, if there's someone next to him, he can punch them and move them one space in any direction, which can slow them down or put them in some bad spot that they may not want to be in. The Rassic, the raptor, if he's in front of somebody, he can kick off of them to get 1 extra free movement. So he's great for trying to just get through the race as quickly as possible. Then we've got the Kraken. He can swap places with an adjacent Titan, which could be important just for moving them back and moving yourself up. And there's other things it could possibly be useful for. Then there's Fire Breath for Slaug, which will let you inflict 1 damage to each of the 3 spaces before you. So let's say this guy was here. Of course, the chances of this happening are pretty small, but let's just say this happened. He could attack all 3 of these people at one time. That could be a very powerhouse move. Then, of course, the grinders we know can drop a trap anywhere, which is great because not only could you damage someone with it, but you can also block paths so that people have to hurt themselves to go through later on. So apart from all these special abilities, if you push people, you hurt them, and you can, and not only that, but you could push, let's say you did this, you could push 2 people and both of them would get hurt 1 point of damage. No matter how many spaces you push them, it's only 1 point of damage, just to make that clear. So even if you push someone 3 times with this, they only get hurt 1. But all that's going on. There's a lot of things that are happening, and then you have these special cards that you'll be drawing as you land on the lightning bolts. And like this one, you can jump over an adjacent Titan, so that can give you a big boost in, because let's just say this guy's here, you can just jump over this guy right off the bat and gain 2 movement points right before you've even taken your main action. This says use the ability of an adjacent Titan. So if I was this guy, he's adjacent to me, anyone around you is adjacent to you, so I could use his ability to do damage to him and heal myself. That's huge. So the cards can do all kinds of crazy stuff, and I'll just show you a few other ones. This one basically makes it to where you can't take damage until your next turn, which is awesome. Protect yourself, especially if you know you're fixing to die. Anybody can place a trap with this. You don't have to be a grinder. This lets you have Cthulhu's power of being able to do damage and heal yourself. This one lets you swap places, like the Kraken. This lets you move an adjacent Titan 1 space in any direction, like Ragnarok. This makes it where the Titan about to inflict damage to you takes the damage instead. That is a super surprise attack, because someone could be almost dead and they're trying to hurt you, and you could end up killing them with this. Boy, that would really ruin their day. You can heal yourself. You can have this one that says, the nearest Titan ahead of you in the same column moves back 1 space. If he pushes you by doing so, then you would lose 1 life. But the point is, if someone's way ahead in one column, you can pull them back and kind of bring yourself back in the game. This lets you inflict 1 damage to the nearest trap or Titan in the same column. So if there's a trap, you can attack traps even with this green die. You can attack a trap to destroy it. But in this case, if there's someone ahead of you in the column, you can also do damage to them. So if someone's really doing great in the race, you can go pop them from a distance and maybe slow them down if you kill them. This lets you advance 1 space just automatically, so that's a free speed boost. And then you have inflict 1 damage to each of the 3 spaces before you, kind of like Slaug. So there's a card that mimics the special ability of each Titan, and then there's a bunch of other special ones that do some really powerful things. So this race makes me think of Mario Kart, for those who are familiar with it, because there's just all kinds of chaos going on, pushing each other around, attacking each other and everything, and of course with the dice, you're trying to steal dice that other people need. The one other important thing I want to mention before I go up and talk about, 2 things. One is, if you choose a die that is your color, for example, he's yellow, if he chose this color, he would get healed 1 also. So there's a motive to choose the color of die that matches yours. He's brown, etc. The only exception is Cthulhu. He's purple. Purple normally would hurt you. He just doesn't get hurt. He doesn't actually get healed, but he doesn't lose a heart either to use the wild. So that's pretty powerful. Now, the only other thing I want to mention is there's a bunch of boards here, and they're all double-sided. So each one has different effects on the game. Like, for example, in the ice one, whenever you step on ice, you have to continue moving through the ice until you slide along the way, which can help you get free movement. Then this one lets you, if you step on one of these fire statues, all the adjacent spaces immediately get torched for 1 damage, so you can hurt people with that. And even if you push someone out of it, whenever you land on it and you push them over here, they would get hurt. So you could hurt them by pushing them, and then they'd get hurt by the explosion of the fire. So that's a great way to do bonus damage. The beach here, if you go in a pirate space, because all these little pirate ships, if you go there, you have to either discard a card because they rob you, or you have to lose 1 life point, so they attack you. That's pretty dangerous. And then here, if you land on lava, it's painful. And here on this one, oh goodness, there's these ramps that will let you skip spaces. And then lastly, this one, if you land on any of these spots in what I think they call it the pentacle, but if you step on any of these places with the question mark, you can take 1 damage and re-roll your die to go again. And as long as you keep landing on these, you can keep going. So on this one, you can hurt yourself a lot and gain a lot of ground. So that's one thing that adds a lot of replayability. The thing is, there's another option. Instead of doing this one map and replaying it doing 3 laps on that one thing, you can also play, which is my preference, you can play where you have 3 maps in a row. That way it's one long race and you don't ever lap back around. That's how I prefer to play. Whoever gets to the end of the 3rd tile wins. So let's go ahead and go back up and I will tell you what I think. One of the things I have to say component-wise, I'm very impressed because not only does it come with a great tray that holds all the miniatures and everything and the cards really well and the dice, but just the fact that this little game has such neat little miniatures that are color-coded to match their character. I'm just really impressed with that. Very happy with I was impressed when I opened it and I saw them. And the dice, they're great because somewhat rounded corners, not super rounded, they're not sharp, but I guess they're kind of moderate, but maybe more standard than I'm giving them credit for. But they're engraved, which is nice. Some of the paint on the inside of the engraving isn't perfect. Some of it's a little faint, but still, it's engraved, and I like the overall quality of those dice. All the character tiles are super thick and sturdy. Like those a lot. Everything's great. The cards are nice. They don't have a linen finish to them, but they're still good quality, and I like them a lot. So all that's great. Component quality, I really cannot complain about. The game has a good bit of replayability, as you saw, because with all those different maps you can play and different characters you can play, you're going to have a unique experience most of the times that you play. And as far as strategy goes, there's a lot. I mean, you're constantly making choices of where to move, how can I push them or hurt them, but also leave myself not vulnerable. And sometimes it's hard to master. Do I want to go over here and get cards hoping I get something I really need, or should I just try to push ahead? And the thing is, some dice are better than others as far as winning the race. The yellow is the best because moving 2 spaces forward is that is the best one for moving, towards the end. And the red one is the worst. You only get to move up 1 space. You get to drop a trap, but you only move 1 space. So sometimes, but the fact that you get healed by the color, you have motivation to choose dice if you're getting hurt that you might not otherwise choose, because you go, oh, I really wanted to use the yellow, but if you're, say, the red guy and you're almost dead, you might use the red that only lets you move 1 space forward because you're desperate to get something to stay alive a little longer. So all those different things make a big difference as far as the choices. So I'm impressed with that. Now, as far as my rating, I really debated myself a little bit here, but me and Nathan have played this a good bit, and I really think I'm going to have to give this an 8, and I was originally going to give it a 7, but the reason why I give it an 8 over a 7 is because it gives me kind of everything that I'm looking for in a racing game like this. It gives that kind of a Mario Kart feel. I like that combat. I like the special powers, and I don't know. It feels unique and fun and exciting, and I always feel like there's something cool I can do. And so I recommend it for anyone who wants something like that, where you want to be able to have this goofy little race and have a lot of chaos. I think it works awesomely. The only thing I will say, the only complaint, and I probably should have mentioned this in the component portion, is the fact that on the map, it's not always so easy to see where you will move with your diagonals, especially if you're crossing over to the other side. But that's so minor, and the game does so well component-wise. I like the way it looks. I like the way it plays. It just does everything that I want. So this is a recommendation from me. So if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, leave them down below and I'll get back to them as soon as I can. Also, one thing I did forget to mention that I want to bring up is the fact that there's a 2-player variant. So if you wanted to play this 2 players, it's a little bit different because each person is going to play 2 people. So that way it makes sense, because otherwise Slaug, the wonderful little jousting dragon guy, his ability to attack everybody that's in front of him in those 3 spots would be worthless if there was only one enemy that you had to deal with. So that, and you really want more people on the board to make it more interesting. So just so you know, there is that modification for 2 players, and there's also a team variant where you can play teams and all that kind of stuff. But but anyway, I just want to get that out there in case that matters to anybody. So keeping that in mind, like I say, if you have any other questions or comments, let me know. And if you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. And if you want to see more, subscribe so that you can see more videos like this. And if you have any recommendations or anything you'd like to see, let me know. And in the meantime, I look forward to seeing y'all on the next one. Take care, everybody.